What's up, y'all? It's September 3rd. You know what time it is. Yesterday, we established the foundation that resources are an integral part to the survival of any civilization. Today, I want to go over the history of how we as human beings have managed those resources here on Earth. So yes, there was a time on planet Earth where currency didn't exist. All that existed was God's resources, or if you don't believe in God, Mother Earth's resources, okay? Now, at this time, the way resources were managed was by seasons. If you knew a season was unlivable in the territory that you were in, you would move with the seasons and so forth to be able to survive and also not overuse the resources of that land. Now, there came a time now known as the agricultural revolution where permanent settlements started to take place. So you actually had people who were choosing to plant their flag and live in this environment. Keep in mind now, since people aren't moving based off of the seasons, they would have to start harvesting and storing resources, especially if they weren't growing at a specific season or time in the land that they chose to live in. Also the same time when plants started to be domesticated. That's big. What does that mean? That means human beings were picking and choosing what plants to replant and what plants not to in order to serve human needs. Now, I'm going to offer some Bible. I'm not saying that you have to believe it or not, but there's some context here that actually aligns with what we're talking about. When you look at Genesis 1:28, it says, "Then God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and every living thing that moves on earth." Verse 29 says, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food." Now, like I said, this is not me saying this is a command that you have to believe in or listen to. What I am saying is what was written, Genesis 1:28, is the same thing that we see over the history of humanity. Humanity started to use the resources of the earth in order to survive and live. And it seems as though the resources of the earth were actually created for that very purpose. Now, over time, as these civilizations started to grow and they started to store their resources, started to develop these different trade networks. You have bronze and iron ages. You also started to have these large irrigation systems, because if we're living here, we're staying put, we may have to find a way to water all of the crops that we keep regrowing on the same land and the same soil. Anyways, I say all of that to say, what seems to me to be a universal understanding is that resources are a requirement for the survival of humanity. Oh, by the way, if you believe in God, then humanity is pretty important, because it says in the Bible that we were made in his image. And one of the largest tasks bestowed upon humanity is to find an efficient way to manage those resources. And so tomorrow we will talk about how resources got exchanged, currencies got introduced, and how the money that you and I are familiar with came to be. See you guys tomorrow.